But football without fans, isn't it? You play a football match without fans, you're getting it. It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch, it becomes nothing.
Into Johnson. Johnson. Larson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! Nakamura! He has done it! Isn't that just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won.
A star is born at Celtic!
Champions. That's who we are.
Yes! McGinty, how's it going? Jungle Jump Tuesday Tic Talk, and today, of course, is Tuesday the 30th of August. Myself and McGinty, Paddy, I believe, is up in Perthshire getting a pedicure. Is that correct, McGinty?
I believe so. I think he's up seeing a second lady friend for a pedicure. I believe, I'm kidding, he doesn't have one. I just realised his missus might actually listen to this. That is a joke. Crap, sorry. Total joke. He tells us he's doing a lot of running around, shifting vans and stuff, and I don't know, work-related nonsense, mechanical. I don't know. He's not here. But do we need him when we've got me and yourself? Do we need anybody else, Gav?
Of course not. Do you remember, I was just thinking about it, I think like this year he might hate Chris Boyd and Andy Walker. I don't know who he hates more at the two, but last year, I think it was Alex Ray that he really, really hated. Do you remember that?
Oh, Alex Ray was a big one. I think we all hate Alex Ray, to be fair. Boyd is right up there as one of the most hated pundits in the whole of Scottish football. I think by everybody, I think even some of their fans can recognise he is just a really shit pundit. But his biasness is blatant as obvious. He's tried to do a Chris Sutton effort, trying to be a flippant and a bit kind of like poking the bear situation. But he's just biased as hell about it. He's neither. No, he's horrible. But Walker, I think I get the feeling some Celtic fans don't mind Walker. I think people of a certain age might be all right with him, whereas maybe people kind of our age are a bit still torn with him after his antics. But hell, you get a few people like that. Even Dalglish is a bit kind of mixed up with people thinking about him.
Look, Walker in our centenary year, where we needed to win the league, to commemorate that, Walker was our top scorer that year under Billy McNeil. So he started off well. He had a great start to his career, but pundit-wise, you know what I mean? He could be accused of being a Celtic apologist. But anyway, welcome to the viewers. I hope you are all doing well, each and every one of you. Thanks for tuning in. Love to hear your comments. Love to see your names. McGinty, who do we have in the house? Keep bringing them up, bye.
Yeah, we've got Egyptian King, Sean, Frank Brennan, Dan, Forever Ever Celtic, Frank Kennedy, even our good man Palman's in this chat just now. A lot of good chat going on amongst themselves talking about the proposed lineups for the Ross County game. I thought I'd bring this one up by Strangelove the Doctor. Can we start off by having a wee look at the Ross County squad and team before we look at how we could match up? Not entirely sure what he means by that. If we're going to look at the team, we're surely going to look at how we match up. But yeah, it's something we are going to discuss on tonight's podcast, along with a few extra things.
Of course. If none of you have caught it, including yourself, McGinty, that Open Goal podcast, I don't mean to sound derogatory when I say that, it's actually quite entertaining. Simon Ferry and Slaney, they had another interview, I think the third interview so far of Postecoglou's tenure with, of course, the man himself, Ange. A wee half an hour stint, but as always, it's both entertaining, funny, and they actually do talk about some serious football chat. Quite enlightening, quite illuminating. I would definitely watch that. And one of the things I want to kind of touch on is Ange saying that he wants to build a squad for the Champions League. So we've got that, of course. The hangover of Dundee United getting scalped by us 9-0. Of course, you did the podcast with McGinty, Kaiser. Sorry, you did it with Kaiser, Dale, and Paddy. I was absent for that one, but I did watch the game. Of course, we've got Ross County tomorrow night. Preview for that. I 62 posted this evening. Yes, Frank.
You knew we were going to get it.
Francis, should I say?
Francis.
We'll talk about the transfer window. So it's the window is closing by the end of tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 31st August. So what are we expecting? Are we happy with the business we've done? And of course, we've got Sefco visiting Parkhead on Saturday, and any shithousery as well. Before we go any further, I want to say on this day, normally I kind of leave it till like midway through, but on this day, and as an obvious one, Bobby Lennox was born 1943 on the 30th of August. Now, got to say that he is my favourite Lisbon Lion, and I will go through a few facts and figures with you about Bobby Lennox. He was actually the man that earned the description of the Lisbon Lions living within a 30-mile radius, because he was the furthest afield from all his other peers in the Lisbon Lion team. They actually, funnily enough, called him the outsider because of that. But as I said, it was only 30 miles down the road, and that was in Saltcoats where he was born. Now, a highly, highly decorated figure in Celtic's history. One of the most, one of the biggest medal hauls as well, Bobby Lennox. He's actually our second highest goal scorer. So you look at this, 273 goals in 571 games. Now, he was like an outside left, a forward, and he only actually got 10 international appearances for Scotland. I'll just repeat that again, 273 goals, 571 appearances for Celtic, but only 10 international caps. And actually, one of the most memorable moments for him in a Scotland jersey was the 1967 game at Wembley. Scotland beat England 3-2 on their own patch. That was the Wembley Wizards game. And he scored in that game. And of course, Scotland fans called the team the unofficial world champions, because that was just after England having won the World Cup in '66. Bobby Lennox was like a quiet, shy, humble man. Now, whenever you look at the stats and the amount of goals that he scored, you'd imagine the modern footballer, and they would have a bit of a swagger, a bit of arrogance. But he was the complete opposite from that. Bobby Charlton actually included him in his greatest 11. Now, that's something to behold. And that was actually much to the bemusement of his peers at that time, who had little knowledge of the man. And if you actually, another thing, the style of his play, his speed was terrifying. So if you think about Kyogo and how many times he gets wrongfully flagged offside, then have a bit of sympathy for Buzz Bomb Lennox, because the linesman couldn't even keep up with him. He always got flagged. It was whenever in doubt, flag him offside. And despite that, he got, as I said, 273 goals for Celtic. He played in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s for Celtic. He played under McGrory, Jockstein, and Billy McNeill. And just to sign off on that, he got 11 league medals, 8 Scottish Cups, 5 League Cups, and of course, 1 European Cup. So a legend is a cliche that gets thrown about very, very casually, McGinty, but I'm sure you'd agree. He is befitting of that description, mate.
Oh, he's 100% a legend, as is, for me, the entirety of the Lisbon Lions. However, I can understand why some people such as Lennox, Billy McNeill and stuff, and Jinky, they're legends above legends as such. But you're right, with Lennox, there's no getting away with it. It's an interesting stat, and I think this has been mentioned a few times when you say he only got 10 international call-ups. I think Jimmy Johnson was similar, a ridiculous number low, if any, did he? I can't remember exactly. Week before our time.
25.
Yeah. 25. There's some ridiculous low numbers for some of our players. I think you need to remember that back in those days, you probably played a lot less international games as you do now. Obviously, there's the European Championships, the World Cup. You've got the UEFA Nations League as well, and then you've got all the friendlies in between and all the qualifiers we have to play. So definitely less games to be playing. But for sure, it feels like comparably to other players of that era, it feels like a lot of Celtic players got overlooked for some reason or another, shall we say, putting that kindly there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, my opinion, that was back in the 60s. In today's day, for me, I think that It's difficult to conflate the two eras, but certainly back then it was very reflective of the sympathies and the bias of the SFA towards Celtic players.
That one was just Kenny kind of backing up with the kind of chat there about how many caps that Celtic players get in comparisons to other clubs and other players in this country at the time.
One last thing, if you ever have the time, stick on YouTube and watch the replay of the actual full game. You'll be able to get the full game. One brilliant game at the Wembley Wizards. I think Ronnie Simpson made his debut. He was already well into his 30s by this point, of course. Willie Wallace was also playing up front. You had people like Billy Brenner as well. A fantastic game. Dennis Law, he was playing too, and it was against the best of the best, the English world champions. So watch that if you ever get the chance. So McGinty, tomorrow, of course, we're playing against Ross County, but just a wee small piece from myself on the Dundee United game. I wasn't part of the podcast for that, and it would have been something, a lot of fun to actually partake in that podcast. 9-0 against Dundee United. Actually kind of reminds me of the boxer Deontay Wilder, and who's always said, like, he's a knockout artist, and he said, one of these days I want to get a body on my record. Now, for a less kind of morbid equivalent, we've always been saying we want to get 10 against a team, because the way we're playing, it's just so beautiful to watch. It's so irresistible. And we came that close, of course. Now, we didn't get a body, but we did get someone the sack, you know what I mean? So a little bit of sympathy towards Jack Ross, just like Parker for Bournemouth, who also gets smashed 9-0 by Liverpool. But we got 9-0, a fantastic game for the support. I'm totally jealous of the travelling support who managed to go to Dundee for that game. 2 hat-tricks for Kyogo in the first half, and then another hat-trick for Abada in the second half. Even people at Starfelt used to get fucking 2 goals over it this season. It was a near enough flawless performance, mate. Just beautiful. And long may it continue. We might well get 10 this season off our team. What do you reckon?
I think it's very highly possible. I'm looking at the league table just now in anticipation of talking about Ross County, and obviously United are rock bottom. Last 5 games this season so far, 4 defeats and 1 draw. County not much better, 1 win. So when we come to talk about them, I think we should be pretty much taking it as fans as a gimme, but I know Ange won't. But yeah, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. What were you asking there, Gav?
I was just how fun it was to be United.
Oh yeah, it was brilliant. And do I think that we're going to get a 10 at some point this season? I think so. I think normally you would be looking at seasons gone by where you've, a few years ago we beat Aberdeen by, was it 9 or 8? I can't remember. And you start thinking, well, that happens once every couple of years, sort of thing. You get those big scalps, and you can usually feel it. You feel that there's a couple of 2-0, 3-0, 4-0 kind of creeps in. You're kind of creeping up to the big scalps. But this year it just feels different. I mean, we're talking a goal difference of 20. We've only conceded 1 goal in 5 games. It was going for, on average, 5 goals a game. Sorry. It feels like you're going to come up against a Kilmarnock or flailing Hibs or Dundee United again later on in the year. I think we're going to scalp somebody again, and there's no reason it can't be 10.
And let's not overstate the progress we've made. It's a 100% win record so far this season. We're 2 points ahead already of Sevco, and 9 goals and superior to Rangers as well, or to Sevco, pardon me. So things are looking very, very healthy in our house, anyway. So, McGinty, the preview of the Ross County game. I know that's on the tips of a lot of people's tongues tonight. So tomorrow night, Ross County. Forgive me, I don't actually know if it's on the TV. So if someone, if one of the people is watching tonight, let us know. Is it going to be on Sky Sports, or do we need to get it on a stream? I don't know. But McGinty, I wanted to open up with, we've been boastful of our strength and depth. So should we actually put it to the test?
Yes and no. A lot of comments, I've put a few up here so far. A lot of comments are looking to, 3, 4, 5 changes for the game. I don't think we'll see that many. I think we're looking more like Ange is very much the man who, as he says last year, we never stop. I don't think we're going to rest much here. I don't think we're going to drop too many players and give them time off just for the sake of time off. I think some players might step out for people who are maybe got a slight niggle maybe, or we're just a bit timid about risking them if they're kind of on the edge of being kind of worked too hard. But I don't think we're going to see wholesale changes. We're not going to see Mikey Johnson start. We're not going to see Forrest start. We're not going to see all these kind of McCarthy starts. What we might see is maybe Aaron Moy start, because he's been around the team getting 30 minutes here and there last few games. You might see Seagrass start because it is a cup game. Maybe we'll see Seagrass getting the cup games. And then you probably see Giamakis start ahead of Kyogo, because it's a natural rotation where two informed players can change in that sense. I don't see it being much more than that. Ange seems very much all about the settled side, keep everybody at the top of the game sort of thing and move that forward, kind of rotate in the moment in the game. I don't think he's going to rest on this one and risk not winning the game.
I totally see where you're coming from. You don't want to disrupt the rhythm that we've got, including the name Premier Sports Cup. Thank you, mate. Thank you. Yeah. Right, okay, so this is a big week. Like a week today, we'll be playing Real Madrid. This weekend, we've got Sevco. So let's not beat around the bush. We'll have people like Kyogo, we'll have people like Calvin McGregor and stuff like that, but can they play in these 3 games? So why don't we go through the team and see who would start and who would drop out? So maybe start from goalkeeper and defence. Now, Hart, obviously, he got a few stitches, but significantly it wasn't concussion. So do you think Seagrass might actually make his first start for Celtic? It would be the opportune moment, or do you think we'll continue with Joe Hart?
Yeah, I think we'll go with Seagrass. If this was just another league game in the middle of the week, I think we'd probably start with Hart, but we're being the cup game, I think you'd go with Seagrass. He's the number 1 goalkeeper for United last year. He's not exactly a kid. He's well into his 20s. I think 28, 29, is he? So he's going to look for starts. Is he up to 30? He's going to be looking for starts. He's not going to look to sit on the bench all season long. So I think it's sensible. A lot of clubs do this nowadays where you've got a cup goalkeeper, and I think we can probably safely say, or safely assume, that Seagrass will start in goals.
Okay. Now, left back, interesting one. Bernabei came on in the second half. He looked to actually be playing in a more advanced position on the left flank, while Greg Taylor was still playing in his natural position at left back. So, and again, I will say it, we've got Sevco the weekend and Real Madrid a week today. So, does Bernabei get a start?
No. I'm glad to see Bernabei getting game time. I'm glad to see him on the bench after his little debacle a couple of weeks ago. It looks like that's not going to take anything away from Ange, giving him the opportunities that he may or may not deserve. I don't think he's done enough to take the spot off Taylor, and I don't think Taylor's the sort of player who needs to be rested. I think Taylor's got a great engine on him. I think he's more than capable of playing the next 3 games. He might tire out after that, and maybe we'll see Bernabei get a start after the Real Madrid game. But I can see Taylor starting all 3. Bernabei coming on, maybe half an hour, 40 minutes to go.
It's a fair comment, because let's not ignore the fact that when you go up to Dingwall, you can rest assured that at times you'll be put through your paces. Sometimes you need to get into the trenches. Like the past couple of games, like we won 3-1 earlier on this month, I believe, but we were drawn 1 each up until about 7 minutes before the 90. And of course, last season, you remember Anthony Ralston's 97th minute injury time winner. So it doesn't always go your way. So perhaps Bernabei, although you'd be tempted to give him game time, maybe you're right that the consistency of Taylor, someone who knows what the full package is to expect in Dingwall, that you do actually want to play him. Now, one interesting one is Starfelt or Jens. I like the height that Jens offers. He scored earlier on this month against Ross County, and they thrive on the high balls into the box and the physical element of it. So I think that there's an argument to start Jens. However, at the same time, Starfelt, do you rest him or do you continue playing him? He never really had a pre-season because he was injured. got a goal there against Dundee United. So do you continue to play Starfelt, or do you give him a bit of a rest before the Sevco game? Personally, I would start Jens, but I see an argument for...
Yeah, this is one of these ones that, like I was saying earlier, that unless there's some people who need to get a little rest, then I think he'll try and put out quite a strong team. Starfelt's one of these ones because of exactly what you said. The pre-season, he's really had one. He's been injured, so he's had his first start at the weekend there, which is interesting that as soon as he's fully match fit, he goes straight in, which is interesting to see where Ange's mind is there, that he's probably going to go with Starfelt over Jens as the starting centre-back next to Carter Vickers. But it's an interesting one because it is probably, as you say, one where you could rotate him out, bring Jens in, keep Jens a little bit fresh, but at the same time, if he's going to look at Starfelt going for the Rangers and the Real Madrid game, you might want to give him as many minutes as possible. So that one for me is a flip.
Yeah. The next one, Cameron Carter Vickers. I think he's a victim of his own success. He's just too damn good. He has to start. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, who are you dropping from? Unless you're going to put Starfelt and Jens in together. Yeah, or
which I don't see. Vickers starts.
And Anthony Ralston, the guy's got a lot of fans, and he doesn't really let us down. He's had joy at Dingwall before.
He has, and as you said, going back to his goal last season, how late that was and how big that victory was tells me that we're not going to take this game lightly. We know what this is all about. Does Ralston start? Probably not. Where's he been the last few games? He seems to be favouring Josip Juranovic, so I think Ange will stick with that. Again, Ralston on the bench, though, you never know if he comes on.
I get where you're coming from, I really do. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ange went for that, but I would give him the nod. I would give Ralston the nod. And another thing, he's a physical player. We're playing Ross County, so I think he'd be like a duck to water with that one. If you start picking and choosing, then that's when mistakes happen. Use the squad tomorrow as all decent players. So when do you rotate? Would say like don't be chopping and changing, but if we keep it consistent for tomorrow night, then when do we change it? Do we field a weekend squad for the Sevco game?
Yeah, exactly. I think Frank Brennan makes kind of that point there. It's not about giving any of them a rest. That's what I'm hoping that's coming across. I wouldn't rest anybody for the sake of resting them, but there's one or two players that probably are on the edge. As you say, Starfelt's only just coming back, so you probably see him getting eased into his game time. You're asking him to do 4 games in about 10 days. That's probably quite a lot straight off the back of not doing preseason, being injured. So I think things like Starfelt is the ones that will be changed if there's going to be anything. But the rest of the team, I generally wouldn't change it too much. Not obscurely out with the realms of, well, this guy's getting half an hour every game, such as Aaron Moy. He might get the start, but not drastically. We're not going to change that. No, we're going to go to the midfield 3 in a second, but we're not going to drastically change all 3 of these players. No chance.
Right, I think we'd probably all be in agreement that Calmat will start tomorrow night.
100%.
So Turnbull, I would expect Turnbull probably to start as well. Would you agree?
I don't know. That I feel like I'm just saying the same things, But that feels like one of those ones with O'Reilly. It wouldn't affect us too badly. It's not a major change because both of them are getting played as much as they both can. So I can see Turnbull starting this one in favour of having O'Reilly for the weekend. Okay,
well, I'll put it this way. Does anyone come in to make a start, such as Aaron Moy, for example?
Maybe Aaron Moy for Hattati. Maybe Turnbull for O'Reilly. But you're not changing McGregor, and you're not going to change it so drastic that we look at that midfield 3 and think, wow, what's he doing here? Like, there's nobody going to need gelled in. All 3 of them are going to be as a unit. I think you're going to be pretty sound. And McGregor's key to that.
Yeah. I totally agree that McGregor has to start. Things could go pear-shaped. So you need people like McGregor to keep everybody in check. I know, McGinty, did you notice that one? Moy's beautiful pass to Maida. It was a pearler.
It was, and after I said it in the podcast at the weekend as well, just after I've seen an RB group chat on WhatsApp about how much Aaron White at the time was almost letting me down. I was expecting him to do a bit more, taking advantage of the situation at the weekend of how far, I think we were 7 up at the time. And he just didn't seem to want to take advantage of being able to impose himself, like attackingly. But then he pulls off that pass, and then he does 2 or 3 of those kind of passes later on in the game, which brings us some good runs from the wide areas as well. So he definitely has a place. He needs game time and he needs confidence. So he's a possibility, but again, it's major rotation. We're not going to see 3 or 4 of these guys rotated out for this game.
Almost like he heard you, and that's why he made the pass. Right, are we agreed that Giakoumakis starts?
I would. Actually, I would. If he's back and he's healthy, and I hear there was just a wee illness at the weekend, if he's back and he's healthy, I would start him. Definitely. I think you need that kind of player against Ross County, especially up at Dingwall. I think we're going to need his strength and his height to kind of muscle his way through at times and kind of not hold up the ball, but you know what, he's capable of being that kind of focal point of the ball going up.
Can I just say this, because I might forget it, but they've got an absolute hatchet man in the guy Callahan. Now,
yes,
he put in a ghastly challenge earlier on this season against, I don't know, whatever, against Celtic, against somebody else. Callahan, he looks like Arthur Shelby for Peaky Blinders. Absolute hatchet man. He went in with a 2-footed challenge against somebody, and the referee only yellow carded him. I don't know if he get retrospectively red carded, but an ugly player. So I hope that the referee has a good game, that he keeps people in line. So I just wanted to mention that guy's name. I think he actually got red carded against Celtic last season, if I'm not mistaken. So up front, we've got the 2 wingers. Would you give Hacksaw a start?
No, I would start Abada. I think Abada's needed more starts this season, and his stats look pretty good. That's 5 goals, 3 assists so far this season, I think he's on, and we're only 5 games into the domestic campaign. I think Abada starts. I think the first few games it was more the Maeda and a Jota kind of flipping between each other. I think Abada starts this one, and you look at Haksabanovic coming off the bench to get his first few minutes in a Celtic shirt.
And are you expecting Maeda to be on the other wing?
Probably. Probably. Again, as you see, with the kind of the physical side that Ross County probably are going to bring to this game, I think we might just slightly protect Jota, but it's in favour of Maeda, who is a natural starter anyway. So, as I've been saying again, this isn't one of these we're resting players for the sake of resting ones and bringing people out, in from the cold. This is Daisen Maeda. He's played every game so far this season with us. It's not a drastic change. It doesn't weaken us in any way. It doesn't drastically change the formation of the setup, as would be bringing in, Jens and Welsh as a centre-back parent, or bringing in 2 or 3 changes in the midfield 3. I think Maeda and Abada is a sensible start with Giakoumakis up top. Okay,
and the other thing that I want to touch upon was we did have a comment earlier on at the start of the episode. I think it might have been from Frank Brennan, perhaps, and it was about how important is this game. We should be perhaps prioritising other things. So from Frank Brennan, tomorrow night is completely meaningless. Hold on, I'm posh. Tomorrow night is completely meaningless when compared with who we've got on Saturday. And this time next week, as such, get the likes of Forrest, McCarthy and Johnson out there running about Dingwall. So it's meaningless compared to the other games. I agree to an extent. However, we know that Ange isn't going to really compromise on his principles in terms of being competitive and winning. Now, cast your mind back to last season, how important it was to get, I know it was a different mentality at the start of last season, but cast your mind back then to how important it was for us to lay down a marker and claim the first silverware of the season. We don't want to give the other mob that incentive. So I think all systems go. We've got the squad depth, so we can change to an extent, tweak things, and still hopefully win tomorrow, at least on paper. You would expect that anyway. So I get that a Celtic and Sevco game are much more important. And of course, Real Madrid, we're always looking forward to that. So Ross County pales in comparison, but it doesn't detract from the will to win.
I agree, and it's what I keep trying to reiterate. We're not going to rest on this game. We're not going to make wholesale changes. We're not going to start Welsh, Jens, Moy, Turnbull, Mikey Johnson, Ajeti, Forrest. We're not going to make those wholesale changes. We're going to make maybe 2 or 3 at most from what would be arguably our strongest lineup, and it's going to be 2 or 3 that make some sense, i.e. Starfelt easing them back into 4 games in 10 days. Aaron Moy, give them that first proper start and maybe try and get them a whole 90 minutes sort of idea. And again, Maeda for Jota or Giamakis for Cargo. Sensible changes that lets us keep everybody that is the core 15 or 18 at the top of their game without compromising this game. Because as much as I do agree with Frank that of these next 3 games, this is the most, not meaningless, but it's the less prestigious one of the 3. But it's still the game that we want to win. We never stop. We want to be champions of everything. We know we're not going to win the Champions League. We know we're probably not going to beat Real Madrid next week. But we're going to give it a goddamn good try. And that's put it nicely. We're going to fucking hammer them as best we can and hope they don't hammer us back. But we're not going to rest people trying to pretend that we're protecting and wrapping people in cotton wool. We're going to manage a squad sensibly, and we're going to try and win every game as big as a margin as possible, be that 2-0 or 9-0.
What was that? Whether it be 2-0 or 9-0? I was going to ask you, what's your prediction for tomorrow night? And the viewers, let us know what's your prediction for tomorrow night. Get the comments up.
We see Chris starting. Maybe a slightly shaky back line. People not quite familiar, but nothing too bad. I wouldn't be surprised if they nick a goal because there may be miscommunications and stuff at the back line if Seacrest starts. And that's no slight. That's just people kind of finding their feet. But I still expect us to put 3 or 4 past them. So I kind of 4-1 would be my prediction.
Okay. Right, well, I am fucking shocking at predictions. Here we go, 3-2 to Celtic v Real.
3-2 from against Real. Jeez, I thought we were talking about tomorrow night. I'll take 3-2 against Real Madrid. We're looking at Egyptian King going for 4-0. Alan Woods going for 3-1 tomorrow night. Sean going for 3-1. Stephen going for 3-0 as well. Strangelove, exactly this as well. Strangelove, the Doctor, 1 game at a time with the mindset of trying to win. That's it. And I think that's exactly what Ange... It's almost cliche in football now. You take 1 game at a time. The next game's the most important game. You're only as good as the last game you played. All these little cliches. I think exactly that. We take tomorrow night as it comes, and we put a team out there to win.
Thank you. I'm going to follow the crowd. I'm going to go for 3-0.
3-0. I think everyone's going for that. A good 3-4 goals between us. I think you're looking at Giamakis getting a goal. It'd be nice to see Haksabanovic getting a goal on his debut if he starts, or rather comes off the bench, as I said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Kennedy coming up with the best prediction of the day. 10-0. Why not? Why the fuck not?
You want another coach sacked then? Is that what you want?
Talking of which, can I just make a point? I never realised, maybe it was on the telly at some point or on the stats when people were talking about it, but I didn't realise until earlier on today that Dundee United domestically, he'd only won 1 game out of 21 of the last 21 games for Dundee United, for Jack Ross. And that's not good reading. I think he lost 18 games or something like that. So it's actually quite surprising that he managed to last as long as he did, to the point of us scudding them 9-0. But with that kind of stats, you don't survive a 9-0 throbbing, even if it is against us.
I remember how cutthroat you were on somebody's podcast one day last year. Would you think Jack Ross be able to keep his job? And you said, I don't give a fuck.
I really don't. But at the same time, hard luck, mate. It is what it is.
That is what it is. Right, McGinty, so we've got 2 other expansive topics that I want to talk about. The transfer window, just to kind of summarise who we've brought in, your thoughts are on it, and obviously it's going to be closing off tomorrow. And the other thing was Ange talking about building a Champions League squad. Which one do you want to go first?
I think we should go with the Champions League squad because that probably can lend into where we might need to build with the last couple of days. I would like to point out that the guys in the comments have corrected us. The window is closing on Thursday, apparently.
Thursday, pardon.
I presume that's still going to be a midnight Thursday, and I probably assume that England's probably, 10 o'clock or something, so 7 o'clock, I think it was the last few years. But yeah, seemingly Thursday.
Cool. Cheers for keeping us right. Right, okay, McGinty. Now, you had actually said in our chat that Celtic should be building a squad made for Europe, made for the Champions League every year. Now, whenever I heard that, I don't agree with everything that you say. But it did actually make me think. My first reaction was just to say, the talking pitch, it's too fanciful. But in light of Ange's interview with the Open Goal boys, that's what Ange actually said. He said that he wants to build a Celtic team who are ready made for the Champions League, not just this season, but every year to get into the Champions League every season and to get better and better and better. And eventually it'll come to a certain point that whenever he leaves, we'll still be qualifying for the Champions League. That's his ambition. That's kind of part of what the legacy is that he wants to leave, not just domestic dominance, but actually doing something in Europe, which is difficult to achieve. Now, that was something that basically echoes everything that you were saying. And I'm not here to disagree with you, but I want to kind of put flesh on the bone with this one and talk it through step by step, roughly, to kind of build a picture of, is it realistic or is it, as I said, too fanciful? Now, one of the reasons for my scepticism, and I'm willing to be kind of won over with this, is the biggest reason is I've never really seen it done before, whether it be with the old Rangers or whether it be with Celtic. Certainly in the 90s and the early 2000s, the coefficient was much, much stronger. So it made automatic entry into the Champions League a given if you won the league. But talking about today's environment where the coefficient, it's not at its strongest, but neither has it been at its weakest. It's a bit on a shaky peg. So one of the reasons for my scepticism is it's never been done before. I've got a few other things that we can break it down, but tell me why you expect, I think one of the reasons that you I don't want to put words in your mouth, but one of the reasons why you feel so strongly about this is because you are so disillusioned with the legacy of Peter Lawwell. That was one of his main feelings. So do you want to expand on that, mate?
Yeah, so for me, it's, if you look back to obviously going to 2003, let's go to the Europa League final, UEFA Cup final, as it was at the time. We had a squad then that I feel that every single one of us who saw that squad for those few years would happily agree that that was a squad of players that was capable of performing in Europe. Parkhead, Celtic Park, was a fortress. We were bringing teams to Celtic Park and we're holding our own against them. All the big names, all your Juventuses, your Man Uniteds and the rest of it. And we did it for a few years after that as well, obviously with Gordon Strachan. You look at the Nakamura free kick against Man United. And even going up as far as Lennon's first time with the Barcelona game with the Victor Wanyama and Tony Watt goal. That was probably actually the last moment where you could say we took a big scalp, I think, in European football. And even at that point, people were probably debating that Barcelona might be on the turning of coming down. And we definitely got lucky. But I think we've long gone since we've had a squad of players that we've went into the start of a season, even with our qualifiers that we have to play, and had a team that we could all feel confident of saying that team can do what we need to do to get to the Champions League without any hassle, or even confidently say we can get into the Europa League. There's some years we've had qualifying rounds and we've, as fans, have looked at that and went, who the hell is a back four? Because sometimes we don't know a single one of them. This is the first year we've actually had a settled back four. If weirdly enough, we didn't even have a qualifier and didn't need it to be settled, but we've had it. And I think we need to build from this point because we need to take advantage of exactly this. We need to take advantage of the settled squad. We've got 5-year contracts on a lot of our players now. I think Nicholson's doing a great job compared to Peter Lawwell previously. It's still early doors. I'm very sceptical about this board overall, but I think he started his first year or so really well. And if he keeps going this way and keeps doing the speculating to accumulate method about this, where you actively put 5-year contracts on players, you actively try and sign the players that you had on loan last year at the start of the transfer window and not delay it until the end, thinking, well, we'll wait and see what money we've got. It's easier this year because the money we knew was coming from the Champions League. But going into next year, we might not have that benefit. So I hope he's going to do the same then. Because if you've got this team here, if this team that we've got just now, I'm going to bring this up actually. I drew this up earlier on. For me, this is our starting 11, the strongest starting 11 we have right now. And if you can go into the start of next season, even if we have to play a qualifier, with that as your core 11, I think we walk through the qualifiers with Ange Postecoglou at the helm. I think there's no doubt in my head that team will coast through the qualifiers.
I hope the viewers can see the names in that, because I can't see a fucking thing.
Well, you're on a tiny little phone, but if we need to go in a wee bit harder for you there, just so you can see.
Careful now.
Phrasing. So you're looking at Hart and goals. You're looking at Taylor, left back Starfelt, Carter Vickers, Juranovic, midfield 3 of McGregor, Hitati, O'Reilly, and a front 3 of Jota, Kyle, Abada. Not too bad if you ask me. And likewise, if you look at the secondary lineup, you're then looking at what is arguably a very strong lineup as well, which there's the depth. And even if we do lose 1 or 2 of those key players at the start in the first lineup, I think most of the players in this second lineup are more than capable of stepping in and playing in the key qualifiers next year if we have to play in them and see us through it. Again, you're looking at Siegrist, an established goalkeeper in the SPFL. European quality, I think, already without seeing too much of him. You're looking at Benabai. Okay, hands up. We don't know much about him. We are very, very quickly. Jens Welsh, Ralston, midfield 3 of Ideguchi, Turnbull, and Moy, and a front 3 there of Maeda, Giamakis, and Haksabanovic. Now, there's question marks over 3 or 4 of these players, but I think overall, they're all of standards to be able to do us justice in qualifiers. And I think we need to build on that so that when we do have new qualifiers next year or the year after, whenever it is, there's a core squad there ready to go. We can't let a backline be decimated.
Okay, right. Going back to what I was saying about I've never seen it really been done before, and what I mean by that is that for every year that we've qualified, there's been another memory of a failed campaign where we've fucked up in the qualifiers and we've had to go down into the second tier, and now we've got a third tier option as well. Of course, this year things are looking good, as you pointed out. We've got a decent enough squad, and we hope they equip themselves well. But another thing which I found difficult to envisage is the long-term strategy that is required. And maybe that's because Lowell never really exhibited that or put that sort of plan into action. So you need, in my opinion, a transition of like-minded managers. So, for example, look at what Postecoglou is doing right now, the vision. Can you imagine, you would fucking hate this, but if his ilk left the club whenever he's ran his course, whether he leaves for better things or if he, or whatever, he leaves and then we replace him with a manager of Neil Lennon's ilk. That totally flies in the face of the philosophy. So one of the things, if this, don't want to be condescending when I call it a fantasy, but this vision, if we're going to be a Champions League club year after year and build a reputation, then I think we need a transition of like-minded managers. And that might require having a director of football, someone who we don't have it right now, but you know what they do, and that would smooth the journey from one to the next manager. Certainly, if you were to go from like a Postecoglou to a Brendan Rodgers, although they're not completely the same, they're much more comparable than like a Neil Lennon, for example. So that was one thing. So you need the transition of like-minded managers, and I think you would also need good, strong working relationships, cohesion between not only the manager, but the director of football and the chief executive. You can't have one guy who thinks he's bigger than the rest. You can't have repeats of us signing that Ukrainian winger under Brendan Rodgers' nose when he never even... Yeah, Shved. Brendan Rodgers was like, I don't fucking know who the guy is, but Peter Lawwell is signing him. You can't have a repeat of that. You need to have people who genuinely enjoy working with each other. So that is achievable. However, it's difficult to realise. And the other thing is a sustainable financial backing where you don't go every second year. You're like, well, you blew your load last year on the transfer market, so this year you're only getting 5 million to play with. Otherwise, you're going to have to make your own money by selling players. You do need a sustainable level of financial backing. So what do you think at those points?
I completely agree. It's something I've been wanting to see at Celtic for a long time. And the easiest way of explaining it is exactly as you said, with the director of football model, where you have that guy in between the CEO, in between Lawwell / Nicholson and the manager. And the director of football has to oversee all the football aspect. He's not the financial director. He's not the chairman of it. He's the director of football. He sees over it all. So from the youngsters all the way through, we all play the same style of football. We all, on the same ethos and points going forward. And he's the guy who keeps everything in harmony. So when we're signing backroom staff, when we're signing scouts, the scouts know what kind of players we're looking for because we know what our style of football is. We know what our model of football is. So the scouts are on board, the coaching staff are on board because they're all like-minded. They all play to the similar style. They all have the same goals and aspirations. They all have the same mythology and the same tactical knowledge. Then you look at guys like your manager. So Ange Postecoglou leaves whenever he does, hopefully not for a long time. The director of football knows what that model within the club is, and he goes out and he finds a new manager who fits that model. We don't just go out and find whoever is the sweet name of the month, or whoever's going to do the job on a budget for us, because this year we decided we're going to rein in the wages a little bit. We go out and we find a manager, even if it has to be cheap, but we find a manager who is of the same ethos, of the same style, on the same model of football, and he seamlessly comes in. You look at clubs like Bayern Munich, they do that kind of shit all the time.
Do we have, sorry for interrupting, do we have a director of football right now in Lawwell? So I always forget the guy's first name.
No, I'm pretty sure Mark Lowe. I'm pretty sure he's something to do with, not head of recruitment, but something to do with recruitment and scouting aspect.
You could be right. And yeah, I totally agree with you. Basically, strong working relationships, everybody singing from the same hymn sheet. The other thing is you've got a narrow, because of our limited budget, you've got, thinking about people at Ajeti who are trying to go off our books right now, you've got a narrow margin for error in terms of player recruitment. It's difficult for that always to come off right. Sometimes it's hit and miss. A lot of it was hit and miss under Neil Lennon's tenure. Some of it was good, some of it was fucking woeful. People like Amido Balde, like fucking hell, you know what I mean? It's difficult to get that one right. Fortunately, Postecoglou has barely put a foot wrong with his recruitment, but you can't always expect that. So what do you think about that part?
You can, but again, if we've got the setup where the scouts and everybody are on the same page and they're all scouting the same kind of players that we need, and they know the formation, they know the style of football, they know, Ange turns around and says, look guys, I've only got one right winger, I need another one. They don't need to start figuring, what kind of right winger does he need? Does he need the James Forrest style, the one who's going to hug the line all the time? Or does he want an Abada style, who's going to drive forward? We know what he wants because everybody understands the nature of our club. You have that ready. So even if Ange leaves and 2 or 3 players follow him out the door, the scouting team can do the work in the background. And even, I would never advocate that we sign any player without having a manager there first, because the manager should always sign off at every signing that we ever do. But the team can get actively on with doing their job because they know the next manager who comes in is going to probably quite likely want this exact same or very similar winger to what they're scouting. So if everybody's on the same page, that whole mechanism becomes so much easier. It does matter. You can get it wrong, but it almost becomes an irrelevant point to who the manager is because everybody is just on that page. Surely. You'll get it wrong sometimes, but as you say, so far, Ange has barely put a foot wrong. I'm struggling to name anybody that we can definitely say that Ange is signed, is agreed to sign. And McCarthy aside, I'm struggling to think of anyone who could categorically state has been a flop that Ange signed.
Yeah, the only person close to that, and I know that we're kind of digressing, the only person close to that is maybe Ideguchi, but he's really not had enough time to kind of be a tick in the box or a cross in the box. Now we're getting 90% right in recruitment. Before Ange, we were getting 10% right. Yeah, things have definitely improved. And I think one of the things is the fact that Ange takes a very, very proactive hand in scouting these guys. And another thing for Scott Howe, I don't think Ange can sign shit players. We have something out of this world in this manager. Aye, and by the way, watch that interview with Open Goal for yesterday. Just the way that he talks, it's just like, it's almost kind of hypnotic. The guy just fills you with confidence. But the other thing, Ange does his own scouting as well as relying on his scouting department. He's very, very proactive in that. But I think one thing that he does over the likes of Neil Lennon, I'm just using Neil Lennon as an example because they do kind of come across as polar opposites. People like Derek Bo-Richter, who we signed, he was a Neil Lennon signing, wasn't he? Yeah?
Derek first Neil Lennon, yeah, his first stint, yeah, I think he was. Surely
we never did an actual character reference on that guy. The guy was... He just looked to have the wrong mentality. Injuries aside, he looked to have the wrong mentality. And I don't think Ange makes that mistake. He's looking to sign, he said it himself, human beings, that is what that he's buying people. I don't mean to make him sound like I'm not going to say it, but he's buying personalities with football talent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not going to sign people who are, you know, like, to use one example, Neymar, who's got all the talent in the world, but or maybe even Jack Grealish got all the talent in the world, but doesn't apply himself, doesn't have the right personality. But that's the point I was making there. So yeah, if we're actually able to put into place this vision of Postecoglou, then the guy will, like, obviously everybody loves him now, but he'll really, really leave a massive legacy if he can actually sustain that annual entry into the Champions League and actually, you know, put in respectable results and performances. If he's able to do that on a regular basis, you know what I mean, it would be fantastic. And one other thing I'll say, I saw a wee snippet of this online. I think it's the owner or like the chief executive for Helsingborg. The guy's American, and he put out a tweet the other day to say that over the last year, the best global appointment in football, without a doubt, is Ange Postecoglou. I don't think the guy's got any connection to Postecoglou or with Celtic, apart from the kind of loose link between Celtic and Helsingborg. But you know what I mean? What a compliment! What a compliment!
It's so surprising. I mean, you go back 15 months ago, and we're all saying Ange, who, and rightly, a lot of the Aussie fans who are coming onto some of the social media sites and everything to try and educate us on us, we're probably pulling their hair out at how narrow-minded and kind of short-sighted we are with the appointment, not knowing who it was. But I think we were quite right to question it because it was completely left field. I'm still not certain that we actually meant it as a signing. I think we've kind of struck gold and got quite lucky. But that's still because I just overall doubt the board, especially going back that long. But when you see the transformation from the Neil Lennon, that last season with Lennon, the failed league campaign for the 10, compared to last season and the way we've started this season, it is completely night and day. We've completely changed the ethos of our football structure here. It's unbelievable what we've seen. Go back to the 9-0. Yeah, go back to the 9-0 game. That is the football that we should be seeing as Celtic fans. We deserve to see football like that every weekend, every midweek as well. Now, unfortunately, we play that many games. But it's night and day. So it's no wonder you're getting some of these reports because Celtic is, as much as we aren't the massive European hard hitters that we once were, we're still a well-known club around the world and we're still looked upon very favourable. So places like Sweden, places like America, places like Greece, Italy, all their shit, they're going to still be looking at Celtic, you know, every so often, and they're going to see the impact that Ange has had. It's unbelievable. I can't doubt that these guys are looking at it and thinking, wow, what an appointment. They've totally unearthed a magical situation.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why that phrase popped in.
The guy is making waves, and sadly, another way we kind of come out with all these superlatives about the guy. Eventually, the Predators might start kind of circling, but Postecoglou's loving it here. Now, McGinty, we're on the home stretch. And the last kind of topic that I wanted to bring up, of course, was the transfer window. And thankfully, I have been corrected. So we've got at least another 48 hours in the transfer window before the big close. So I wanted you to summarise who we brought in and get a couple of your thoughts on it. So the main ones, of course, are Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers. I've taken the price, the transfer prices from transfermarket.com. So it might not be 100%, but they're usually roughly on the ball for that. So Jota about 6.5, Cameron Carter-Vickers about 6.3, Bernabe 3.9, Haksabanovic 2.25, Maida 1.4, Moy a 3, Siegrist a 3, and Jens is on loan. What you can highlight that the average age of those 8 players is 24. Another tick in the box. It's the right approach, the right methodology, as you said, from the scouting department. We're getting young players, and Ange said it himself, he's not buying them for, especially Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers, not buying them for what they did last year. He's buying them because what he anticipates they're going to bring, that they're going to get better and better. And they're buying them at the right age, financially and physically. But Cameron Carter-Vickers and Jota aside, who do you think is the most notable? Or might be kind of too premature to say, but who are you tipping to be the best signing out of the rest? Bernabe, Hacksaw, Maida. In fact, no, I'm going to take Maida out because we know him. Bernabe, Hacksaw, Moy, Siegrist, and Jens. Who do you tip to be the best, to make it a best impression in the future?
I think it's too early. I think Jens being on loan, we need to see if we make that deal permanent. There's every potential that if we do make that permanent, that he steps up, as he looks like he could be a big player for us. So if we do sign him permanently, I think he could be somebody that develops into a big fee in the future. But as such, he's only on loans now. I think the rest of them is a bit too early. Your main two that you're probably looking at is Bernabe and Haksabanovic as being the kind of younger ones with the model to develop and progress. Moy, 30, he's not going to go for big bucks. He's going to play here for probably the next 2 years and then see where he goes afterwards. And I don't mean that in a slight. I just think, obviously, he's not about to go chase a £25 million transfer to somewhere else. Siegrist, likewise, I can see him being here long term to take over from Hart, and I think that's probably the route we're going down. So it's really the left back Bernabe and side Haksabanovic that if we can get those two, we've not seen enough of either. Obviously, one we've not seen at all, and the other one has barely kicked a ball at this time. But I think those are the two that you're probably looking to see if they can step up and become big money transfers in a few years' time.
I'm personally intrigued about Jens because apart from Cameron Carter-Vickers and Starfield, not many people have got the confidence that Welsh can actually put in a meaningful challenge to those two centre-backs. I think Jens, from the little that we've seen of him so far, he's looking pretty positive. So I'm happy with that. And if it's got to go back a year, we were meant to still be a club in transition. This guy is a genius, a miracle worker. It feels too good to be true. You know, sometimes I try not to get beyond myself with my opinion of Ange, but after watching that interview yesterday, it just reminds you how much you appreciate him. You know, looking after Celtic, like being the custodian of Celtic. The guy's barely put a foot wrong. I totally agree with that comment. I'm not going to go through all the outgoings because there's been a fair amount of them, but one of them today was, it might have been today or yesterday, Owen Moffat. He left on a permanent transfer to Blackpool. I don't even know if he's going into the Blackpool senior team or into the development squad. But 20 years old, I think out of the Celtic B team, that he was one of the best, but he wasn't going to get in ahead of people like Mikey Johnson. Well, definitely on the fringes. So, a 20-year-old, and you're at that crossroads. We've spoken about that with a few people. What was he going to do? Was he going to languish on the Celtic B team or seek a move elsewhere? quite brave of him to take that leap of faith down to England. Blackpool definitely not the most stable of clubs. They've had their problems recently, but another one bites the dust. The best of the youth players seem to get taken away from us by the European giants, and the others, sadly, they're maybe not good enough. Kind of exhibited by Boss and Lawal, who had some time with the Celtic team in the friendlies in the pre-season this summer, but he's been straight back into the B team. He's not getting that sniff in the squad. Were you disappointed about Moffat's exit? Did it come as a surprise?
A little bit, but not a massive surprise. He's one of the players. He said he looked the better of the bunch from the B squad. You kind of hoped and expected that some of the players would get a bit more of a chance this year. It looks like they're not going to. What looks to be the case is, as you said, we Bosun Lowell, a few of them got the opportunity in the friendlies and the early season games there, and not many looked impressive at all for the level that we're now at. The intensity, the tempo, the press, everything we've got going about us, not many of them seem ready to step up to this. I think that speaks volumes about the structure at the club and the transitions between. Now, that's not just on the club. That's a lot of that's to do with the Scottish football setup. The fact that, you go from the B squad at the Colts at the fourth level of Scottish football to the very, very top of Scottish football that is Celtic. You're a massive jump. There needs to be something in between. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of years. Hopefully we get something to develop better, because that jump is absolutely massive. None of these players are ready. Some of them look tasty. Bosun Lawal looks good at that level. He looks head and shoulders above him. Rocco Vata looks like a tidy little player. Owen Moffat looked like he could have been up to something as well. I think there's one or two others that we saw on a couple of the B games last year. But overall, they're just clearly not ready. So it's disappointing not to see that any of them step up. Not surprising to see one or two of them still walking out the door. But at least Owen Moffat has given it until he's the age of 20 and then realised I need to move on at this stage. It was disappointing the last few years seeing guys like Morrison going to Bayern Munich, and who was a kid again who went to Liverpool? It was disappointing seeing those at such a young age of 16 for both of them leaving. That is really disappointing. But I'd like to hope that if we get something structurally in Scottish football, then we might see less of that happening in the future. But as it stands, yeah.
Hopefully. It just seems kind of the opposite of the SFA, the footballing authorities in Scotland, to actually do something to be productive to, protect the structure of Scottish football. It's just like the unlikeliest thing that they would ever do to actually help themselves, to help the game north of the border. But again, as we said, we've been over the incomings. There is the rumours that, well, not even rumours, we are actively trying to get moves for Agility, get moves for Mikey Johnson. It's a wee bit worrying with Mikey Johnson in particular, why he's not yet found a club. The way that things are looking right now, I would be surprised if he does leave. I think it's different with a Jetty, because it's all about money with a Jetty. But Mikey Johnson, it should all be about, there'll be plenty of footballing clubs who would be willing to take a punt on Mikey Jetty for
Mikey Jetty. Send both of them as one. I'm surprised Mikey Johnson's not found a club, and I wonder if it's maybe that there's a different opinion of what we want to do with him. I think Ange likes him. I think Celtic overall likes him, and I think we all would love to see Mikey Johnson find the form and the consistency that we all hope that he can find, because we know on his day he can be a very, very tidy player, a very direct and a very skillful player. I think we probably want him loaned out. I think there's probably a few clubs maybe waiting to see if they can just sign him on a permanent deal, or what that loan deal might look like. Hopefully he gets loaned out in the next 2 days. I would be disappointed to see him leave on a permanent, because I think if you had a decent loan to an English championship, maybe a Hibs or an Aberdeen at this level, or even a League One in England. Look at Callum McGregor, Notts County, sorry. That was the making of him. getting those games, getting the goals in that he did. I think he got nearly 20 goals or something in that time, 40-odd games. That was the making of him. The same could be done for Mikey Johnson. He clearly needs fitness, he needs confidence, and he needs regular game time to build into his career. Otherwise, if he's not going to get that for his own benefit, he probably needs to move on fully. But if we can get a decent loan for him, I think there's something there to be looked at again.
Yeah, well, I think the last podcast I was on, I called him Peter Pan, the boy who just doesn't grow up, and he is 23 years old right now. But compare him to Abada 20 years old. It's just night and day, which is very, very sad to see. Mikey Johnson to Bodo or Hearts. Bodo's a weird one, you know what I mean? Going up to like the northern Arctic Circle, man, where you're fighting polar bears on your way to training the ground, you know what I mean? I think Mikey Johnson, that'd be a fish out of water, him going up there. Hearts, that'd be an interesting one, Mikey Johnson going to Hearts. But the last kind of question was, if they do leave Ajeti and Mikey Johnson, or Mikey Ajeti, as I said, if they do leave, do you see any incomings? Is there any other positions that you or the viewers think that we need to strengthen? Let us know.
I don't think we're dependent on anybody leaving before we make any more signings. I think there's potentially 2 signings could come in. I've tried to think about this a lot. I've seen it on the social medias and on the forums as well. People are very much aware of the European 25-man squad. We need 4 players developed under the age of 21 for 3 years at the club, and likewise another 4 on top of that would be developed in Scotland. So at least 8 in Scotland, and 4 of those 8 need to be within the club. I think we're comfortable at that stage, even without counting Mikey Johnson. And I think we could probably lose McCarthy from the Rovell squad, and we can look at the 22-man squad that I had there, add in the likes of Bain and Forrest and Welsh. And that gives you... No, I had Welsh in that squad. Anyway, I think we've got it there, but there's room to manipulate it a little bit. And I think we might do it for a midfielder, which we seem to be still rumoured that we're still chasing 1 or 2. We seem to be still making inquiries the last few days for a couple of midfielders. So I think a midfielder may make his way in. I don't think that's dependent on anybody leaving. The other thing I think might happen is potentially another centre-back, just because Welsh seems to be going out of the picture a little bit.
Oh.
But I'm not entirely sure that Ange is that fussed there, because you've got 3 good-looking centre-backs in Starfelt, Carl Vickers and Jens. Who else do you sign who's going to be fourth choice to them that isn't at the level of Stephen Welsh, to be honest?
Fair comment. Maybe Welsh out on loan and bring in a new centre-back. Any comments about that? Anyone throwing up any names or anyone identifying any positions that they want to see strengthened?
Just have a quick read back. Obviously, I talk a lot of nonsense, so I miss a bit of the chat, but no, it doesn't look like anybody's mentioning much on positions that need filled. I think we'd all agree a kind of dominant midfielder of some kind would be nice. I just don't see it as an Ange specific position, but seemingly we are looking at midfielders still. Yeah.
We've heard a lot of clamour for that, but if they're going to be good out of possession, then they need to be as equally good in possession. They can't become a fucking liability as soon as we get possession and giving away stray passes. They need to be good on the ball and off the ball. And I think if you can't do that, then Ange is not going to sign you, no matter how intimidating you look in a dark alley. Again, I think we've got through a lot. I actually really enjoyed that one about building a team for the Champions League. I think that's a great idea. Is it a theory that can be put into practice? I really, really enjoy that one. And hopefully, by the end of this winter, then we'll have a better idea how we're performing in Europe. But I loving that one. To the viewers, thanks very much. If you're still here, go and hit the like button just to help the wee podcast go on a wee bit further. We actually did really, really well with the Celtic and Dundee United podcast. We got a few more subscribers. I think we got to 1.3 for the views, which was cracking. I don't actually know if we're going to do a post-match review for the Ross County game tomorrow night. We will, but we're not going to promise anything. And of course, we will definitely do the post-match for Saturday's game against Sevco. That's the big one, mate. Do you want to kind of hazard a guess at your prediction for that one?
Yeah, I'll do mine now because I'm going to miss tomorrow's night if you guys go ahead because I'm working very early doors on Thursday morning. I'm going to miss the podcast on Saturday as well because I'm going to be working, so I'm actually going to miss that game. But I reckon in the form that we're in, we're definitely capable of scoring 3, 4, 5 goals against them. It's almost like tomorrow night. I can see us scoring 3, 4 goals. Do we see them scoring 1 though? I think we could go for a good 3-0 again against them. Comfortable 3-0.
Loving the confidence, mate. Loving the confidence. I'm not going to bring you down. Right, okay, so aye. 4-1 against Sevco. Great pod. Thanks very much, mate. Thanks very much. And hope everybody's doing well, enjoying your evening. Guys, the technical info, blah, blah, blah. Brilliant. I won't read everything out, but just thank you. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you've enjoyed the night, and I hope you've enjoyed the game tomorrow night as well. Hail. So for me and McGinty, I guess we'll say good night and cheerio.
Hail, guys.